Hey everybody, this is Pastor Chris. I'm coming to you live from Lexington Park Baptist Church. Just to give a few more minutes for people to get on because I kind of started the timer late. I'm going to go and I'll be right back and then we'll do our official introduction. Be right back in just a second. All right, hello everyone. This is Pastor Chris. I'm coming to you live from Lexington Park Baptist Church's PC Studios. It is August the 21st, 2021. How in the world are you doing? Hope you're blessed. I hope you're highly favored by God. Good to be with you here today. So we're going to be talking about one of our distinctives. So we have values, we have a mission statement, we have our values, and then we have distinctives. And one of those things is that we're saying we're unashamedly Baptist. You may not even know what they are. They're on our vision pamphlet. But one of those things I just did a sermon on this week was Unashamedly Baptist. Now, I know that in our church we have a variety of people from different backgrounds and some from different even backgrounds of Baptist. But we all come from one Lord, one faith, one baptism. We all belong to Jesus. So as I say this, I don't arrogantly taunt that we are Baptist. I say that we are Baptist and we're unapologetic because we really believe in the doctrine and we really believe in how the Baptist church functions. And that I really believe that the faith or the practice of our faith tenets of the Baptist way are the most accurate scripturally. Now, does that mean that every other denomination is wrong? No. In fact, I say this often. Heaven's going to be filled with many more people than Baptists. And there'll be some Baptists that don't make it. There are going to be some people that claim that they're Baptist with every dying breath, but they don't know Jesus. Listen, we are Christ followers. So as I say unashamedly Baptist, it is with this assumption. You are truly a Christ follower. You believe in Jesus Christ. You want to honor his word. And you understand that the church is a body of believers that has come together with core tenets of faith that we believe in. And to serve, and our number one goal is not to have Baptist distinctives. Our number one goal is to share the gospel. That's every single church. Our holiness and worship, our ability to be witnesses in the world. We are called to ministry, we are called to holiness, and we are called to share the gospel. So you are called to live holy, you are called to be a witness to the world, and you are called to serve in ministry. And we do that through the local body of believers, where we come together with what we believe. So there were three distinctives that I talked about as part of this Unashamedly Baptist. One is that we have the authority of the scripture, we have access to God as the priesthood of believer, and that we have the autonomy of the local body of believers through our membership and through how we cooperate together with others. I'm going to take Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to delve into that, what I preach specifically Sunday. I want to recognize the Baptist Faith and Message. Everyone got that. You can find this online, Baptist Faith and Message 2000. So to the best of my knowledge, my recollection is 3 times. There was the original message, Baptist Faith and Message, and then 1925-ish, 1950-ish, there was another edition, and then 2000 was another edition. So we've not changed this much. This is a statement in time. We are confessional people, not creedal people. I kind of talked about that. And in fact, hold on just a second. Let me get something. I'll be right back. I had to step into my my library to show you a few things. So if you're ever interested in anything, so Baptist Heritage by Macbeth, excellent resource if you want to know about how we became Baptist. Baptist polity, again, just kind of how we kind of conduct ourselves is another thing you could do. And then, as I was speaking of, Baptist confessions, right? So however the wording comes out good, right? Baptist confessions of faith. So these are actually, I had to study this in Baptist Heritage in seminary. So again, another reason seminary is not a cemetery, you guys. I hate when people try to do that. Seminary can corrupt pastors if it's a corrupt seminary, but seminary, at least when I went, And New Orleans, I'm proud of it. I was educated well, and things that I never would have studied, even understanding the confessions of the faith. So I want to share a little bit with you today, that we are confessional people, not creedal people, and that doesn't mean you have the right to disagree with this document. In fact, I would say if you're Southern, if you believe in Lexington Park Baptist Church, this is what we believe. This is kind of like our confessional statement of faith. And so you should align with that. You should say, yep, I'm with it. I'm down with it. Your preferences may be different. Like you may say, I come from churches that are non-denominational. Okay, or I come from churches that had elders. Or I come from churches that had trustees. Or I've come from churches that practice different gift sets of the spiritual gifts. Okay, but this is what we do. And that's not we're saying that other people that practice otherwise are not going to be in heaven. This is heaven's a big tent, and we're going to find out we did things wrong, and we did things right, and vice versa for everyone. So there's no perfect church, but God has given us different flavors and different varieties. Extremely important. We'll talk about that when we get to autonomy. But as far as confession is what we profess. That's it. Now, it's not a creed to be dictated down. It is something that each man's conscience must heed to. And so I want to encourage you that the confession of our faith in the Baptist faith and message should be something that we confess to, that we profess to, that we believe in, and it should unify. What I talk about is not the authority or the access or the autonomy, but rather the ordinances of our church. And there are only 2 ordinances. And if you know what they are, as I talk a little bit, write them in right now. What are the 2 ordinances of the church? There are only 2. We do not have sacraments. And this is really, really important. We don't have sacraments. Sacraments impute salvation. The only thing that imputes salvation upon you is Jesus Christ. Okay? That's it. By the way, I haven't seen anybody write anything in. So if you're out there and you haven't written it in, we practiced both of the ordinances this past Sunday. There you go, Keith Brooks. We got it. Baptism and Lord's Supper. Those are the 2 ordinances. Now, what's ordinance mean? If you're military type, or if you're a boom from the Navy or artillery guy, right, in the Army, then you're thinking, hey, this is ordnance, what we're sending down range. Not the right ordinance. The ordinance is something that's ordered. So we are ordered by God to practice by faith baptism and to practice by faith the Lord's Supper. And these 2 things the church should do. And so it's a commissioning to the church. It's an order to the church. And so we believe that as Baptists. Now, other denominations come from sacraments. Sacraments are you do something and it brings salvation to you. Listen, baptism doesn't bring salvation to you. The Lord's Supper doesn't bring salvation to you. Yeah, I know Catholics teach you that, or other denominations. Lutheran might have some of that. And sprinkling of the water of kids and infant baptism like a new covenant. Guys, that just sounds great. It's a good idea. It's just not in the Bible. You must believe to be saved. It's by faith that you're justified. It's by faith that you come to a salvation knowledge of Jesus Christ. It's by faith. So if there's anything we do, it's not an action. It's not an act. It's faith. It's belief. That's it. That's it. Jesus did it all. You are not saved by works. You're saved by faith. Just simply, I believe what Jesus did. I accept what Jesus did. And so when we do that, there's a couple things that should happen. Because we're followers of Jesus and believers now, we want to enter in the ordinance of baptism and practice the ordinance of the Lord's Supper. So a little bit of Baptist heritage, I shared that book with you, is that you understand is, my understanding is when we became, the Baptist faith started to emerge from the Reformation, and those of the English church or Catholic church would say, look, there's those baptizers. Well, why were they calling us baptizers? Because one of the core tenets of our faith was that when you have a profession of faith in Jesus, I believe in Jesus, that you have a believer's baptism. So what happened with the Church of England or Anglican Church and the Episcopal Church and Catholic Church is we're baptizing as infants into the church as a sacrament. We're coming around, no. You have professed Christ. Now you make a decision to follow Jesus in obedience in baptism. And that is the believer's baptism. So I believe that wholeheartedly. It's a distinctive of Baptist. Some people are more staunch on that than me. But sprinkling just doesn't get it. One, the mode is wrong. The mode by itself is wrong. The mode of sprinkling, where in the world? That's nowhere in the Bible, right? The practice came early in church history with good cause. Infants die young. We want them to be saved. We want them to know Jesus, so we sprinkle them. Not required, though, for salvation. In fact, I would say we could call on some scriptures to help bring comfort in other areas to that a child before an age of what we call accountability. That word is never in the Bible either, though, but where they become consciously aware of their sin and they become accountable unto God, and that maybe the faith of the parents would be sufficient to the child until that age, and God knows the innocence of a child. We could make some scriptural arguments for that, but it's silent in a lot of ways. What happens if a child dies early in life? But baptism not required. So baptism is not required from an adult. But why would an adult be baptized then? Why? Who cares, right? If it's not for salvation, who cares if I get baptized? Legitimate question. Because you want to obey Jesus. Because you're following Jesus. And Jesus' command is really clear in the Great Commission, Matthew 28, 19 through 20. Go read it. He commissioned us. He told the church. He's commissioning the church. He's commissioning individuals. Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them, key word here, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And then teaching them all that he's commanded us. And then remember, he's with us always to the end of the age. Baptizing. Guys, there's no way around it. Baptism is not something that saves you, but it's something we're commanded to do. It's something Jesus commissioned us to do. So we got to get our arms around this. I've seen people with all kinds of bizarro thoughts. Well, we're just baptized in the Spirit. You were baptized in the Spirit? Yeah, when you got saved. But that's not the baptism he's talking about. Jesus was a water baptism. When you go back and look in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 3, Jesus was baptized. He was dunked in water, baptizo. He was immersed in water. He did it as an example for us so that we too would follow through. Because no longer John the Baptist's baptism. It's a baptism of Jesus. We've been baptized by his Spirit. We need to be baptized by water immersion and to prove that we're believers in Jesus. Now, if you can't do that, like practically you die, right? Okay, God gets that. If you're in desert and there's no water, Jesus gets that, right? I mean, there could be some extreme examples where what if this, what if that? But that's not the norm. You need to be baptized. You need to be baptized as a believer's baptism if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, showing your faith put in him. One, it's symbolic. I want to talk about that symbolism. His death, burial, and resurrection. Romans 6, 1 through 4. Man, clearly, Paul is writing and saying, look, should I keep sinning just because I've been saved? God forbid, no way. And he goes, don't you know you've already, just like Jesus, you've died to yourself to be raised to walk in this newness of life. Just like Jesus died and was raised, you have died to your sin, to self. And you've been raised to walk in this new way of life, of following Jesus. That's what baptism represents, you all. That's the symbolism of baptism. So we need to follow it. By the way, in the Baptist Faith and Message is an entire section here called Baptism and Lord's Supper. I encourage you to read it. It tells you what we need to do. Now, do we practice everything? First of all, we're not closed communion here. We're open communion. So if you're a believer in Jesus, I want you to take the Lord's Supper with us. So you won't read that now. Also, I don't think that you have to be baptized to take the Lord's Supper. It should be practiced that way. You should move that direction. But if you're a believer in Jesus, the Lord's Supper is something you take to remember Jesus. Now, not every Baptist church agrees with that. All right, so it's a little different. So we, again, because of the autonomy we'll talk about later, it helps us understand that. But we definitely want to do these things. So I want to encourage you, if you're out there today and you're struggling, baptism is a step of obedience. Now, my background a little bit here is this. Look, if you're coming more from a Reformed theology, which we're all Reformation, by the way, so this Reformed theology just gets confusing. But if you're coming more Reformed, high church, or you're coming more from an elder system that's Presbyterian or something of that nature, you're going to have different tenets over this and beliefs over these concepts of baptism and predestination. Listen, what's predestined is the cross, you all. I'm getting into a different area that didn't intend to. But when you read predestination to me, I don't think Jesus lined you up and picked you. That makes no sense because there's too many other scriptures that say stuff like he wants none of us to perish. Well, then why would he pick you up and say, you're in, you're out? Jesus didn't do that. What he predestined was the cross. And in his foreknowledge, he knows who will believe in Jesus. He knows because he's God, he's got foreknowledge, he's eternal, he's outside of time. He can see and knows every decision everyone will make. Therefore, the predestination, the cross predestined us to Christ. Those of us that will believe in Jesus, those that look forward to Jesus and the Messiah coming, and those of us that look back to the cross, we can know we have Jesus. So baptism, though, let's look at this baptism. A believer's baptism is something that we follow through with obedience. Jesus exampled it for us in Matthew 3. Jesus commanded us to do it in Matthew 28. And then Paul writes of the symbolism of it in Romans 6, 1 through 4. So if you're a Baptist believer, you will teach those things and believe those things. So I just want to encourage you. Maybe this can encourage someone else that maybe is struggling with baptism, like you saw Jill this past week get baptized. She comes from a Methodist background, and she understood not to put down the faith that she grew up in. They taught her about Jesus. She loved Jesus, and she was taught to follow Jesus, but she never followed through with a believer's baptism. We've got JC coming up this week. Been a Baptist all of her life, raised in Tennessee, more from a fundamental independent Baptist church. And she's coming, and she's like, I don't know how she got through the Baptist church in her faith. She never was baptized. Maybe she didn't have a pastor like Chris McCombs that would come at her, but she immediately comes and says, I want to do this. I need to do this for me. I've never done it. And so she's getting baptized this week. Like Izzy coming up, this little girl, special needs girl, great Spirit of God at camp this year. I got the privilege to be a part of the team that she came to know Jesus. She immediately comes, and they live in our area, and she wants to be baptized. She's getting baptized this week. So on and on and on. I can give you examples. What are they doing? They believe in Jesus, and then they obey Jesus. They believe in Jesus, and they follow Jesus. And how are they obeying and following Jesus? Through baptism. Now, maybe you too, some of you out there in the audience, you've been baptized. Remember the day of your salvation and rejoice in it. Remember the day of your baptism and be grateful to say, I can remember that. You know, that's kind of like an outward recognition of what God has done inwardly and eternally for me. So there's so much to baptism, but baptism and the Lord's Supper are two doctrines of the church for us that we believe in, that we confess to, that are tenets of our faith that make us unashamedly Baptist. Listen, I'm unashamed of Jesus Christ, Romans chapter 1, 16, right? Go read that whole section there. I'm unashamed of the gospel, for it's the power to save, first into the Jew, then into the Gentile. So at some point, I'm unashamed of that gospel. I'm unashamed of Jesus. I'm unashamed of the Baptist faith and what we profess to. And one of those things is baptism and the Lord's Supper. So I want to encourage you in your faith. I hope this past Sunday you got to witness the baptism and experience that and say, wow, that just thrilled my soul to reconnect with that in my life, but also to celebrate that with my sister in Christ that got baptized. And also the Lord's Supper, I got to connect and remember what Jesus did for me with his death, and that his body was broken and his blood was shed for me, and that he's coming back for me. These two ordinances we carry on throughout all of our history, throughout the history of the church. And I want you to know you can be proud to be Baptist, and you can be unashamed to be a Baptist about baptism in the Lord's Supper. Hey, God bless you. Have a great day. Remember these two realities. God loves you. So do I. You take care. See you tomorrow.